America. Brother Clyde Fuller have introduced himself. I can see if Snachi all the way from Nigeria. Welcome, brother. Again, before we go any further, I'm going to start off the meeting. I'll start with a prayer. I'll pray using my own indigenous language, which is Shona. So let us pray. Ngatinamate tenzi mababa totenda chikupencha mupazoniswa. Taipemberi pechika kushemwa chitungamirai. Zvotakuita musangano unotenzi wangu. Damukatungamirira. Zvese zvachataura zvigova zvinofamba zvakanaka. Zvese tenzi zvisami iyo mbiri yenyu kana isingaperi. Amen. I thank you. A great appreciation to our country spokesperson. I can see all of them that are on call. Hopefully, today our network issues are being solved. I will start off with our brother all the way from Nigeria. His brother Ifesnachi. I hope I pronounce your name very well. You can start off by introducing yourself and give us a quick presentation on behalf of people of Nigeria.
Hello, greetings, my brothers and sisters. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Okay, this is Ifesnachi, a country speaker from Nigeria. Please, I want to first and foremost thank the founders of this great noble platform, being Christopher and Skinner Sinclair, if I got the name right. I want to also make a quick appeal to the organizers of this lecture, that if it is possible, let there be a topic of discussion so that every country speakers can present their views on a particular topic, you know, so that we can have a uniform discussion. I think this is just my personal opinion. Then I would like to, moving forward, you know, the aim of this is not the first Pan-African platform or movement, but this is a new one, taking a new dimension of technology, trying to use technology to achieve its aims and objectives. So in summary, the aim of this platform is just trying to, apart from trying to stop racism and xenophobia, I think the bone of contention there is trying to unite Africans, the African bloc, both those in diaspora and those at home, so that we can pursue a common goal, you know. So then moving forward, I would like to, in fact, a question will likely arise if the main aim is to try to unite the African people together so that they can pursue a common aim. Then a question like, why are we not united at the first place? You see, if you trace backward, you'll see that Africans normally is not that they are not united right from the days of the old. But because we had interference of different forces, you know, we have interference of political forces, military forces, those termed colonizers, those intruders that came to disorganize the African unity. You know, because beforehand in Africa, in my own locality, I think the kind of life we have then is a communal life. And the communal life is it entails unity, you see, because you commune together, you eat together, you do everything together, others are taking together, we listen at one voice. But because of this interference, they succeeded in disorganizing Africa. And this is why we have Africa scattered all over the world. You can see in almost in all continents of the world, you can see the presence of African individual there. If not a family, it will be an individual. If not a family, it will be a community. But at the end, you see that Africa as a people are not united. So if the reason for us not being united is because we were disrupted, we were interfered, people interfered into our territory, we had an intruders, then I think what we should be looking at is how are we going to unite us together again? You see? Because fighting xenophobia and racism, you know, different regions have different challenges. Like in my country here in Nigeria, I don't think if we have a racism issues or xenophobia, the place to have a dominant issue of xenophobia is in South Africa. That is in this part of the African continent. Then if you go to the diasporans, they have different challenges like racism because they have different races there. But the main thing is because Africa is not united. Because if Africa is united at home, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead and wrap up. You're out of time now.
Okay, sorry for that. So what I'm saying is if Africa are united at home and they speak in one voice, starting from bottom, the communal level, the family level to the African Union as a global organization, then our brothers and sisters across the world will be respected because we have redefined, if we redefine ourselves, people will look at us with different eye. They will view us in a different way because the way they are viewing us now, why they are disrespecting us, why they are threatening us is because of the definition given to us by those that colonize us. So if we can try our best to redefine ourselves to the global world so that they will see us in a different perspective, we will be respected. We don't need to tell them respect us or respect us. No, if they know that we are respected, if we respect ourselves because of the image we are projecting, then they will be forced to respect us. As you can see, the white people, they are not going around telling us that we should respect them or we should look down on them. It is because of the things they have done. It is because of the ideas, the ideologies, the technologies, the machineries, all the things that they have enrolled out for our own use. We are now using the things they give us. So if we can redirect our way, my dear, we will be respected all over the world. Let me stop here. I am because you are.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, brother Ifesinachi. A call for us Africans to unite. So if we are united, as brother Ifesinachi said, we will be able to protect ourselves from the harm and the humiliation of anything which can come upon us. Thank you so much, brother, for that call for all people in Africa to unite and abroad to unite. We are one. United we stand, divided we fall, they say. Thank you so much once again, brother Ifesinachi, all the way from Nigeria. Without wasting time, we're going to have our brother all the way from South America, from Guyana. His name is brother Clyde Fowler, one of our ambassadors. Yes, brother Clyde Fowler, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning, Brother Howard.
Good morning. How are you, brother?
Morning, brothers and sisters. I'm fine, thank you, ambassadors all. I want to say welcome to this Pan-Af class today. I want to thank the organizers. I want to thank Dr. Wright and Ms. Nana Akuna for the lecture on healthcare. Truly, Pan-African movement here across the world has been making impact and has been flowing to the masses, and throughout the diaspora, we are making inroads. The I Love Black People app and the radio programs that are on air and using the various platforms have been making inroads. And I want to say thanks to the organizers, thanks for the vision of our brothers and sisters who recognize that we must stand united. We must fight against racism, and we must fight against all the forms of violence against us as Black people. We know that the United States, one of their plans, and the other countries, their plans were to destabilize Africa, because Africa being the breadbasket of the world, everything that the world has some trace to Africa. We know that Captain Thomas Sankara and Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, they both wanted a united Africa, and they wanted Africa to be the breadbasket for not only the world, but for Africans. And we know that these lectures have been put together to educate us, to bring us to a place where we understand who we are, and not only understand who we are, but we take charge of our lives by taking our health back, because we have been given things taken from us and packaged and given back to us that is causing us to become sick. And we want to take charge of our lives by taking charge of our health. So I want to encourage our fellow ambassadors to spread the word. Let us all download the I Love Black People app, share with others, get involved some way or the other. We know in the year 1884 to 1885, the Europeans sat in Berlin, Germany with no African present, and they divided Africa for themselves. And today it's our opportunity to unite. It's our opportunity to stand and to fight. We have the resources. Africa have the resources. Africa don't only have the resources, but they are the youngest in terms of human resources. They're the youngest, and we have the ability and the capability of making and the unity, the visions of our forefathers, the visions of those who would have fought for our freedom, fought for these days that we would stand united to see it come to pass. Unity is a reality in this generation, because we are coming to the understanding that we are, because we can make the positive changes that has been so desired and so run for by those before us. Let us be strong. In the words of Bob Marley, it says, Africa, unite. We know that we have the opportunity. And I love to end with this quote that said by Maya Angelou, which says, for Africa, to me, is more than a glamorous fact. It is a historical truth. No man can know where he is going unless he knows exactly where he has been and exactly how he arrived to this pleasant place. And today I want to encourage us to download the app, share, let us unite, let us get across. We are just a few here, but I know that with us being here and the words given to us through these lectures and the health that is being promoted, once we get these teachings and understandings and share it, we will understand that each day is a gift. And as we share and celebrate, we will remember the liberty that was paid for us with blood and sweat by others, and so that we can experience this freedom. And with that, I want to say, I am because we are. Ambassador Clyde Fowler. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Shalom.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Brother Clyde Fowler. A call for us as we are celebrating the freedom of Africa to unite and to use our resources to take care of ourselves, and again to help each other by all means. We do have technology which we are using at the moment to stop racial profiling around the globe. A call for every one of you to download the I Love Black People Safe Places app. So please, can you download that app, sign up, make sure that your location is on, share the safe place where Black people are being treated with dignity and respect. So the idea is behind the Green Book. I hope all of you know the history of Green Book. So we digitized the idea, and now we do have the I Love Black People Safe Places app. So let's embrace it, let's use it, let's take advantage of the technology which we are using, and let's unite. By united, we can make it. I think the link was shared in the group for those who are asking about the app. The link is being shared in the group. Make sure that you download the app. The app's main purpose is just to share the places around you, which it will show you places around you. So it is your duty as a Black person to confirm if the place is Black owned or Black friendly, and if it treats Black people with dignity and respect, you can like the place. If you like it, it will come to our lead developers, and then they will put it on our online digital guide, which is iloveblackpeople.com. Also, if you do have a chance, kindly visit our website, which is iloveblackpeople.com, so that you can see the other work which you are doing as well. And also our social media platforms for those who are interested to work with us and being paid, kindly apply. The ongoing recruitment and the interviews are still going on. Apply to be a moderator and also apply to be a social media manager if you do have an experience. First preference is given to you, members and ambassadors. So kindly apply today and follow the stages which have been requested by the recruitment team. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate all of you. So again, now without wasting time, we're jumping over all the way to Ghana to have our brother Paul Mbila. He's also an ambassador. Thank you, brother Paul Mbila, for joining and also for sparing your precious time and in the efforts to help us to protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. Welcome, brother Paul.
Yeah, thank you very much, co-host, for this great opportunity given to me today. I would thanks to all Pan-Africans on this very platform. Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, brother Paul. You can go ahead.
Okay. Thanks to everybody on this platform and Pan-African movement, and I love my Black people's movement. In fact, previous ambassadors have spoken a lot, and I would like to make some contributions to what they spoke about. My brother from Nigeria spoke about colonialism. I heard his statement on colonialism, and I would like to contribute a bit on that. And my brother from Guyana also spoke in relation to colonialism. Yeah, what I have to say is that colonialism has its way in our recent racism and xenophobia. It was slavery and the scramble or the partition of Africa that brought all these terms called colonialism. And in order to eliminate all these structures, we need to also unite as one mother continent or as one people. And when we do that, we can be able to fight against colonialism. Because when you look at colonialism, in fact, it will be difficult for a beggar to gain popularity before the giver. The reason is that Africans are in the business of begging Europeans for support. And it is in our real life, it is difficult for beggars to gain popularity in the face of the givers. So in order to be able to stand firm and fight our own cause, we need to rely on ourselves, believe in ourselves that we have all it takes that we can fight against this whole called racism and xenophobia. In fact, this advent of colonialism or the imperialism in Africa has cost Africans a lot. So if we get this book wrote by Walter Rooney, the book entitled How Europeans Underdeveloped Africans, you could see that Walter Rooney made a statement that the cause of Africans underdevelopment is as a result of the Europeans' imperialism in the continent that we are in now. In fact, when you go to Nigeria today, it is very pity that we see in Nigeria as an oil country, but 52%, almost 52% goes to the British. You could see when you come to Ghana here, we drill oil here, we mine gold here, but you could see that very few of it comes to the coffers of Ghanaians, and very few of it goes to Nigeria, and very few of it go to the same way applies to other African countries, which means are in business of processing it and bringing it back to Africans and selling it at a higher cost, which later imposes hardship on Africans. So I would say that Right now, we have identified the structure in this exploitation business, we need to put stop to all this colonialism, and we need to embrace unity, and we need to also fight against this colonialism. In fact, colonialism is a direct and overall form of imperialism, as I said. So most often we say that we can say that colonialism is imperialism, but then imperialism can never be colonialism. Okay, so colonization of Africa was not a very easy one for Africans, because before the colonialists can enter into our territory, they need to fight with our rulers, they fight with middlemen, and they fought very hard before they could enter into our terrain. After entering, they tried to impose some rules on us, and with that imposition, they tried to take something precious out of African continent. If today Africans realize that they have something that they can rely on, and Africans realize that they can fight or live without Europeans, I think that African continent will be one of the best continents of all. Because talking about one of the largest continents, I think outside Asia, Africa is the second largest continent. And talking about population too, Africans has one of the most populated people on this very continent, which means the more the population, the more we have our labor force, we have a high labor force. So meaning that we are not what the Europeans think we are better than what the Europeans think we are, because the Europeans think we do not have the history of ourselves. Because if history we will recall, we can say that development was in Africa before Europeans. So Africans saw development before Europeans. We can relate this to the Ethiopians civilization, we can relate this to the Egyptian civilization, we can relate this to many of the civilizations in African continent before the advent of the Europeans, which means that we were better than,
Brother Paul, sorry for interfering. We are out of time. You can wrap up again.
Okay, so I would say that we have whatever that it takes to be better. So if we are able to realize our potential, that we Africans can build a better Africa, then I think we are easy to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Paul Mbila, all the way from Ghana. Unfortunately, our time is not on our side. I would like to extend my my apology to our two speakers who were supposed to speak again today. I have our brother, Ambassador Edward Staffam, and also Brother Mohammad Samba Kamara, all the way from Sierra Leone. Next week, I promise you, brother, you'll be the first ones to speak on this call. And also, without wasting time, we have asked Nana Akua to join earlier so that we can learn more about the healthcare lecture, the herbs, herbalistics, stress relief, everything. So please, if you do want to receive a shout out from Nana Akua, she loves seeing happy faces all over the world. You should turn on your camera, smile, and yes, yeah. So that's it. Our apologies to our speakers who couldn't speak today. You speak next week, you will be the first speakers. And also welcome to those who joined us late, and welcome again, Nana Akua, to our healthcare lecture.
Good day, everyone. Good day, everyone. So, hey, Yvonne, hey, Award. Hello, everyone who is here. Let's see, Muhammad, Clyde, Frederick, Ife Sinache, Chris. Who else is on? Oh, Elijah. Someone's on. Is that Lewis? Oh, it's switching over. Okay, I think I got everyone. So listen, if the two speakers, if you want them to speak, Award, they can. I know you all asked me to come on early, but I imagine there's some frustration if they were prepared and planning to speak. What do you think?
Yeah, they will speak next week. They'll be the first to speak for next week's section. So you can go ahead.
Okay. Very well. If you are sure, that is fine. So let me see if I can share the screen. Did you all miss me last week? Did you miss me?
Definitely, yes, we missed you.
I was traveling, and I've traveled before and just got on, but I was moving around, so I don't like to really do it on my phone. I don't like to do the lectures when I'm moving around and things, you know, out of your control happen. So okay, some other people connecting. Thank you for letting me see your beautiful Black faces. So yeah, I apologize for not being on. I think that was the first time since I have started that I have missed. I always make it a point. There have been several occasions where I have been traveling, and I always just make it a point to still be accessible. So yeah, I was like, okay, well, it's okay if I had to miss, but here I am. So we are going to finish our discussion about, I think it's the week 2 packet, but it's talking about, and I have not posted this week. It's been a busy weekend and week, but this is the section where we talk about herbs and homeopathic remedies and essential oils. And I'll refresh my memory when I pull up the slides, and I'll share the screen in a moment. But the purpose here is to share what types of healing modalities that exist. So herbs are always well known. We're very familiar with the concept of herbs. However, maybe not as well-versed in homeopathic remedies or essential oils and other natural substances that we can use for our healing. So I wanted to be sure to give examples of those things and how to inform you on how to use those for your healing. This class is all about empowering you to know that there are other ways in which to heal. There are other uses for plants, herbs, oils, and things like that we can use either solely for our healing or in complement with prescription, drugs that you may have to get from the clinic or the hospital or your physician. And so this is all about empowering you, enhancing and increasing your toolbox, so to speak, on what you can use to heal. I think that anything that we can do to empower ourselves, mindset is a big, big part of it. However, we also have to take care of the physical body. We have to take care of the spiritual body, the emotional body. And so these remedies focus on just how to do that. So let's see. I think I have it. Okay. Awesome. So I think that should be seeing my slide, and so you should see 10 common homeopathic medicines that's on the screen. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you. So we talked about herbs the last time I was here, week before last, and we went over some of the common uses for herbs. So just like herbs, homeopathic remedies, there are thousands of them, right? And we would not have time to go through all of those. So just like a synthesized version of the herbs we spoke about 2 weeks ago, we're going to do sort of an abbreviated version for the homeopathic remedies. So these are some of what is considered by this author 10 common homeopathic remedies. And so I want to just give a word about what homeopathy is. So homeopathy is what pharmaceutical medicine is based off of. homeopathy may contain herbs as the base, minerals, and in some cases, even animal or insect parts, but all natural occurring, no synthetic, no chemical made components. Homeopathy is all natural. Usually you will take it in a tablet, pellet, tablets, sometimes liquid forms. You always take it what we call sublingually, where it is taken underneath the tongue and absorbed into the body through the mucous membranes in the mouth, right? So it gets into the bloodstream faster than swallowing herbs with, you know, in your capsule form or your liquid extract form and that sort of thing, in tea form. Homeopathics you take underneath the tongue sublingually. And with homeopathy or homeopathic remedies, you have to take it on what's called a clean mouth, meaning you have not just eaten or brushed your teeth or drank any liquid other than water. So you want to do it away from food. So you know, so some medicines, some herbs, some vitamins you'll take along with your meals. Homeopathy is the opposite. You want to take that away from food, okay? So some of the common homeopathic herbs, and the author of this article gives sort of some references as to get more information about homeopathy. The Everyone's Guide to Homeopathic Medicines. There are many books on homeopathic remedies. You can Google and get a much more extensive list, but these here are just some of the top 5 more commonly used homeopathic remedies. And so the first one here is Allium cepa. This comes from the onion, right? And so just like, oh, and the other concept, this gives a perfect example of this. The other concept of homeopathic remedies is it's based off of like cures like, meaning what causes the issue, right? The remedy for that issue, it's usually the same remedy in the right dosing and right potency that will also cure that condition. So this example, let me illustrate. Onion, we know if we handle onions, we cut it up, we touch it, we know that it'll cause kind of watery eyes, right? It'll cause the eyes to run, may cause some kind of burning around the nasal passages, that sort of thing. Well, it also cures those same conditions. So in a situation where someone has the common cold, right? And you have a runny nose, watery, runny eyes, your nasal discharge, you know, is coming down. Allium, which is made from onion, will cure those conditions of that common cold. So this is a good example of like cures like, okay? So it's best known for the healing process of colds, hay fever, allergies, sinuses, things of that nature. Arnica is the next one. This comes from, it's plant-based as well. This comes from the mountain daisy. And this is a good remedy for first aid usage. So there's some kind of shock or trauma or some sort of injury. This helps reduce pain from injury, helps speed the healing process, okay? So this is the version where you would take it internally to assist with dealing with pain from some sort of injury or some kind of physical trauma. The Arnica topical one, still the same remedy, but this one is put in the form of a cream or an ointment to where you use it topically for those same types of sprains, strains, bruising, things of that nature. So if you've stumped your toe, you run into, you know, the doorway, you know, you have some kind of bruise because you hit, you know, the calf on, you know, the bed, whatever. This is excellent for any kind of sprains, strains, or bruises. Chamomilla, this comes from the herb chamomile. So this is known and most often used for teething infants or an infant that's just irritable for any number of reasons. They have colic, they're teething, they're just sort of upset, want to be held or comforted or coddled or what have you. But when there's sort of that incessant crying, this helps to relieve or calm that person. So it's a sedative or calming type of remedy. And of course, adults can use it, anyone can use it, but it's just most commonly used in what we call teething remedies or colic remedies. So chamomilla is another commonly used homeopathic remedy. Hypericum is St. John's wort. So again, another plant-based homeopathic remedy. This remedy is excellent for injuries to the nerves, okay? So if you have smashed your fingers, your toes, you know, slammed it in the door, this is good for that kind of nerve type pain. If you are diabetic and you're having neuropathy and you're having something related to nerve pain, Hypericum is excellent for that. The next one is Ignatia. This is also a plant-based remedy. This comes from the St. Ignatius bean. This is good for psychiatric issues or mental health issues like acute grief, anxiety, depression, if there's trauma from death or separation from a loved one, but really deep-seated psychiatric issues. Ignatia is excellent for that. Magnesia phosphorica, this is a mineral-based homeopathic. This is excellent for menstrual cramps, but also any kind of cramps. Often used though by women who are suffering from menstrual cramp pain. But it also can be good for leg cramps, other cramps, you know, in the calves, or the arms, other parts of the body, but most often used for menstrual cramps. Very effective. The next one is Nux vomica. This is a plant-based one that comes from what's called the poison nut. This is excellent for treating symptoms of overindulging. So if you've drank too much alcohol and, you know, the relief has to come from expelling the toxins from the body, Nux vomica is excellent for that. If you're nauseous, if you're suffering from vomiting and other things of that nature, for whatever reason, if it's from recreational drugs or alcohol, or if it's something you've eaten or just in other ways overindulged and something needs to kind of get purged from your system, Nux vomica is an option. And it's only a couple more, and I know I don't usually go through each of them, but pulsatilla, this is a plant-based homeopathic remedy from the wind flower. This is excellent for people who are having, again, some kind of psychological or psychiatric issues. They're in a heightened emotional state. This is good for people who aim to please others and are really struggling with maybe some self-esteem issues. They're people pleasers. And of course, there's some other physiological symptoms that pulsatilla deals with, but these are the most commonly used uses for pulsatilla or windflower. Rus tox, this is made from the plant poison ivy. So of course, from our first example, if you think a little bit, what then do you think this treats? Poison ivy, right? So this specifically is a remedy. They have soap, they have ointments and creams. They have all sorts of remedies, and of course you can take it internally, but this is excellent for treating poison ivy if you come in contact with it. Now, I don't know how common poison ivy is on the continent, but here in the States, if you live in a wooded area, you may go on a nature walk. If you live in, say, a city, and may not know what the plant looks like and you come in contact with it, a lot of us in our backyards will have this plant, and basically it causes severe itching and a rash. This Rus tox homeopathic can be used internally and topically to relieve the itching and to heal the skin from the poison ivy rashes. I know that here in this explanation, it talks about some other remedies, but honestly, what is most often used for is the actual infection of the poison ivy. But it can be used for flu and arthritis and some other things, rusty gate syndrome, sprains, strains, but just know that it's very commonly used here for poison ivy. The next handout I will not go over, but I wanted to include this. And as always, if you do not have the handout, you can always email me. I will send it to you because this is for your reference. This is a natural first aid kit using homeopathic remedies. So it has remedies here for burns, for eye injuries, for bruises, for strains, for sprains, insect bites, all of this, right? If you're out and about, heat stroke, that's a really big one. A really big one. I have, in my role as Queen Mother, I've definitely been out at different ceremonies and rituals and out in the bright, bright sun, right? And have definitely suffered from some heat exhaustion. I wouldn't say heat stroke, maybe. But yeah, I have definitely had occasions where I've had to be kind of dealt with and helped with overcoming the effects of the sun. So all of these are good things to have on hand. So whether you're actually camping or, you know, you're outside, sometimes just where we live, and because of the climate or the terrain, you may encounter certain situations. Insect bites is a big one. Certain areas are just prone to certain types of insects where you'll have to deal with bites and stings and things of that nature. Or again, living in high sun areas close to the equator, heat exhaustion, heat stroke are going to be very common. These are some very good remedies to have on hand so that you can deal with those types of conditions. So this handout is very important. Moving on to essential oils. So now we know that essential oils, this is the distilling process, the drawing or extracting process from the flowering parts of different plants or herbs to get the oil from that flower that can be used in a number of different ways. We know that we can use it topically for massage. We can use it in a spray mister to create a certain aroma in a room or a space. We know that we can use it in a diffuser, again, to emit the fragrance or the aroma from the oil. We can use it in hair and skin products. We can use it in our bath for soaking purposes, to heal the body or to soothe or heal the skin, to create a relaxing effect. There are many, many uses for essential oils. We know that essential oils are highly concentrated, right? So we know that we have to dilute essential oils in what we call carrier oils. So if you see the middle of the page here, these are some suggestions for some really good carrier oils. And the carrier oils are going to just be a vegetable-based oil like a almond oil or apricot oil or grapeseed, or olive is not my favorite to use. I think it's a little heavy and it has its own scent. But some of the lighter scented oils, and canola is listed here. That's also not one that I really would recommend if you're using the essential oils topically for some kind of healing purpose. Hazelnut is nice, sunflower is nice, safflower is nice. So there are a lot of different carrier oil options, but you're always going to want to dilute. And they're giving sort of some percentages here. Just a simple way, if you have, say, an 8-ounce bottle that you've added some carrier oil to it, then I would say add 20, 30 drops of your essential oil to that, right? That would be an adequate dilution if you're going to use the oil topically. And then the handout here even give some other options. I mentioned some uses, right? Massaging, baths, even in douches for women, there are certain essential oils that can help with that internal cleansing process. You can also use it for mouthwash. certainly your spearmints and your peppermints, even some tea tree. There are different oils that would be really good for mouthwash. You can use it as a compress if you're having an ache or a pain in some part of the body. You certainly may use maybe something like some ginger, maybe some clove, or some other oils like that, eucalyptus. These are things that may help with pain and help to soothe the body and use it as a compress in that way. So let's just go through some of. Now, of course, I love peppermint. It's my favorite. I pretty much use it on a daily basis. I always say this, but I want to highlight some of the essential oils that we may not use as frequently or that you may not be as familiar with. So let's start with basil. We know the herb basil. Or the spice basil, we certainly may cook with that, some Italian dishes and things of that nature. But the essential oil has some healing properties that are good for the nerves, for the to mentally stimulate one's mental abilities. It's good for bronchitis, colds, headaches. Let me try to increase this because already my eyes are feeling a little bit strained. That's a little better. The glasses give me a headache, y'all. I know you're wondering if you need glasses, why are you not using your glasses? But the glasses give me a headache. So anywho, and now this box where I can see some of you is in the way. Okay, so I'm missing part of what I'm trying to read, but it's good for concentration, mental clarity, confidence, things of that nature. So basil is definitely one to consider. Let's go to cedar wood. I'm not a fan of the smell of sort of cedar and pine and stuff like that, but for some people, you like that woody kind of camphor kind of aroma. This can be really good for you. It's really good for like chest infections or bronchial issues. Topically, it's good for dandruff, for eczema. It's a really good grounding oil, used in a lot of spiritual cleansing baths and things of that nature. It also can enhance your clarity and insight. So this can be a really good one for mental clarity and things of that nature as well. But of course, with all of these, you're going to want to embrace the smell. If it's a smell that's not appealing to you, of course, this is not the oil for you. And so again, for me, I don't really love some of the cedars, pine, junipers, things of that nature. One of my favorites, cinnamon. We know of the spice cinnamon, but the essential oil, again, also very healing. It's an antidepressant, antiviral. It's good for certain infections, colds, arthritis, rheumatism. It really enhances your psychic awareness and abilities, enhances your physical energy, and it's just very uplifting. Also kind of promotes a feeling of prosperity and vitality. So cinnamon, also a very, very good one. And another one, clove, it kind of also always reminds me of cinnamon, but however, they're different. But the aromas are similar enough. But cloves are really good for toothaches, for warts, for muscle pain, for diarrhea, for chest infections, things of that nature, but also have a really good protective, healing, ability when you're talking about spiritual uses and that sort of thing. So clove can be really, really useful as well. Let's skip down a little bit to this next page and try to hit some that are not as common. Myrtle. I don't use myrtle at all, but let's talk about myrtle. So myrtle is an essential oil that's an antiseptic. It has antibiotic properties. It's good for muscle pain, colds, flu, mental exhaustion. This can be really helpful for really high energy people because it helps enhance and strengthens you. So if you're kind of on the go and feeling a little worn down, this can kind of lift you up, also brings about confidence. So myrtle is a really interesting one as well. Rosemary, we do know the herb or the spice, right? Rosemary, but again, like the clove or the cinnamon or the basil, has some really good healing properties as well. We know that it's great for anxiety and depression. It's good for respiratory issues, mental clarity, helps with the effects of aging, enhances your memory, longevity, and all of that. So has a lot of good healing properties with rosemary. And then the last one I'll mention is vetiver. Vetiver helps with circulation, helps manage stress, good for arthritis, rheumatism, things like that. And this is a herb that's great for protection, bringing forth money and just elevating your energy and all of that. So also has some really good healing properties with that. I thought I had included, this is probably the old packet. I had another handout on, okay, so it's not in this packet, on essential oils that kind of gives an abbreviated version. And what I didn't mention was any of the citrus ones. I'm just scrolling through to make sure it's not in this packet, but okay, yeah, it's not. But I also want to just make mention of the citrus types of oils, because these are really good if you're having a bad day, if you're feeling stressed. Most of these citrus oils are really good for kind of brightening your day, uplifting you, increasing your energy. So whether it's lemon, whether it's lime, whether it's grapefruit or mandarin or bergamot or any of those that are in the orange family, mandarin, there are a lot of blood orange. So there are a lot of essential oils in the citrus category that are really, really good. They increase circulation and just sort of reminds you of just sunshine. So sort of what we imagine, say a lemon or a lime and that sort of thing, these can evoke those same healing properties in the mental and physical bodies. So now I'm just scrolling back to the superfoods. So that'll be the last thing that we talk about in this category. Because again, we're looking for all of the tools that help us to live a more healthy life, whether it's a condition that we are fighting off, a dis-ease or illness that we're fighting, or if we just in general want to be able to use foods to boost our immune systems, to avoid contracting any type of disorders or illnesses in the first place. This is where something like superfoods would come into play. So, and of course they can help with certain conditions, but the idea here is to include these types of foods into your diet to where the body is really enhanced and able to fight off different types of conditions, because it's able to fight disease-causing microorganisms like viruses and bacteria and parasites and this type of thing, in addition to adding the nutrients that you need to stay as vital and in optimal health as you can. And it is pretty much what it sounds like. A superfood is a food that is so highly nutritive. It is so packed with vitamins and minerals and necessary nutrients, right? We've talked in, which week was that? I guess that was the first packet. We talked about micronutrients and macronutrients, but we talked about what nutrition is and what the body needs. These foods are so full of all of the different vitamins and minerals that the body needs that is considered extraordinary, a superfood. And so we have two handouts sort of combined here, some that are straight foods, and then some that are more like seeds and powders and supplements that you can add to, say, shakes or cereals and fitness or wellness drinks like that. So this first set of 10 superfoods includes almonds, right? So we know almonds are packed with calcium and other vitamins. It has vitamin E, and it's basically really, really good and added to your diet, especially, right, especially if you are trying to cut down on dairy, which usually people rely on to get your calcium intake. But even if you're not vegan and not doing dairy, this is a good, healthier version to some of the mucus forming dairy products that are high in calcium. Broccoli rabi, this is high in vitamins A, C, and K. Also has a lot of potassium, iron, calcium, and dietary fiber. It's known to slow the aging process, build strong bones, reduce the risk of hypertension. They have a lot on this broccoli rabi. And this is just sort of a version of broccoli, the floret that we know. Of course, this is the leafy green vegetable part of broccoli. It's not that floret part, right? So it's a little different, but has a lot of benefits, as you can see. Helps fight off free radicals in the body, protects against Alzheimer's, stroke, birth defects, things of that nature. We know that avocado contains what we call healthy fats. So these are the essential fats that we need in the body. And so this is something you can add, that it gives you what we call the monounsaturated fats. So not the trans fats, not the saturated or the polysaturated fats. This is monounsaturated fats. This is the good fats that we need in the body. Raw milk, usually, and in the US, you can't get it unless you go directly to a farm and they've not pasteurized it. Usually you'll get it in the form of kefir, which is known in the Indian culture, where they'll make the kefir. Some health food stores will, well, a lot of health food stores will have it. But this is found in, found to have vitamins A, D, C, and B. And then of course it has a lot of nutrients, minerals, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and essential fatty acids. Wheatgrass is another really popular superfood. This is commonly found from the wheat plant, but it's very, very highly nutritious. Most people will drink it in the juice form, and they do what's called these juice shots, or wheatgrass shots, I should say. And it's high in iron, calcium, magnesium, amino acids, vitamins A, C, and E, right? And we know that chlorophyll is what makes everything, right, green and full of all of these nutrients, like these minerals that are just listed here. And so we know that wheatgrass is the biggest source of that. Salmon is also on this list for superfoods because of its high content of omega-3 fatty acids. And so we know these are essential to the diet. And this is an easy way, healthy way to get in a good, meaty, tasty fish that has your omega-3 and 6 essential oils or essential fats in it. Flax seeds, we know, are good for the body. In addition to the list here, while it's in my mind, it's also been used to prevent breast cancer. So some of the natural regimens for fighting off breast cancer, especially if it like runs in your family, this is something good to add into your diet. And again, it's because of the omega-3 essential fats that it includes. Oh yeah, and it does say here. So it helps to manage diabetes, cancer, heart disease, inflammation, can fight depression, helps increase brain function, but it's high in vitamin B6, copper, phosphorus, folate, magnesium, dietary fiber, and manganese. Blueberries is also on the list here. We know that blueberries have a lot of benefits. It has phytonutrients, vitamin C, and of course, your good dietary fiber that's needed in the body. We know that we can add this to shakes or smoothies. We can also cook it in our foods or just snack on it on its own. Cinnamon, we've definitely mentioned cinnamon here. I love cinnamon. And if we are eating it in our foods, adding the seasoning or the spice to our foods, we know that it can suppress and fight urinary tract infections. It can be soothing to the stomach. It improves brain function. It lowers the bad cholesterol or the LDL. And we know that it promotes a healthy glucose metabolism. So a lot of people who are diabetic or have problem regulating their blood sugar will add cinnamon into their diet or take a cinnamon supplement. Sweet potatoes is the last on this list. We know that sweet potatoes have a lot of nutrients like beta carotene, vitamin B6, vitamin C, fiber, potassium. It also, we know that beta carotene is the vegetable part or the vegetarian part of vitamin A. Other vitamin A's come from animal sources. But if you having vision issues or you want to enhance that issue, beta carotene is always going to be good to add in. Most people only know of carrots, but we know that sweet potatoes is a good source for beta carotene as well. And then the next handout I'll quickly go over. Again, these are the superfoods that are more like your berries, your powders, your foods that you'll make into like smoothies or cereals or sprinkle on top of foods. You'll find it in healthcare products and things of that nature. Some of these have become very, very popular very recently. And this acai berry is one of those. So acai has really become popular, especially here in the States. It comes from South America. And we know that it has a lot of, more like a vitality. And a lot of these are more like tonic foods or what I would consider like a tonic herb that just kind of helps strengthen your constitution, helps with overall vitality, overall immune function, things of that nature, because what you will find is they may not have specific research on what all it does. So you'll see a lot of these will kind of give this general statement of just how it's just good for the body. But here in the States, they have juice bars and things that that use the acai. They have these fruit bowls where they mix up the acai, kind of gives you the idea of like a soft ice cream, but it's the base of like this fruit bowl. So they have this acai berry mixture, and then they put other things on top of it like walnuts or almonds or coconut or granola or fresh fruit like bananas and berries, and that is like a meal. So and then acai you'll find in all kinds of drinks and that sort of thing. So it's become very popular. Goji berries, sort of the same type of thing. This is native to Tibet, and again, one of those vitality, longevity types of supplements that people will add because of its antioxidants and other healing properties. You'll find it in a lot of foods and drinks and smoothies. Cocoa powder or cacao, this we know has flavonoids. We know that it's known to lower blood pressure, help with the brain and the heart. A lot of foods, of course, will contain this. Probably one of the more popular ones maybe on this list. Seaweed, I'm not a fan. However, it comes from the sea. So we know that right off the top that it's going to be highly nutritive, going to have a lot of minerals in it. People will eat it just as a snack. Some people, another popular thing here is these noodle bowls where they're doing the ramen noodles and all these different fancy noodle dishes. Seaweed is something would be easily added into like a noodle bowl for your meal. We know that, again, it's high in minerals, calcium, magnesium, iron, potassium, iodine, and zinc. Chia seeds, another very popular one, and I'm running out of time, but this one is packed with omega-3 fatty acids, fiber, calcium, things like that. People will ground this up, add it to shakes, add it to cereals, add it to other mixtures. Mangosteen, this one comes from Southeast Asia. Again, people will add it to drinks and smoothies. This is excellent for combating cancer, and it's a good anti-inflammatory. So a lot of people who have arthritis and things of that nature will use the mangosteen. And then maca powder. This is known as a good adaptogen. Again, a tonic herb that kind of helps everything kind of function better. But it's also good for fatigue, regenerating and repairing. Again, what I would consider something that just helps with overall vitality. increases energy, endurance, and libido. That's probably the main thing people are using it for. So we've come to the end. My little note page here, this is more so for you to go back through, highlight what stood out for you, what herbs you think would be useful for you, what homeopathic remedies could be useful for you now or later. And then some of the other nutritional supplements that we mentioned, the essential oils, the superfoods, things of that nature. And you could also go through and put into categories what types of issues they'll help to address. So I think I have a few more minutes so I can go through. I have a few more minutes myself personally. I'm out of time here, but I'll go through and see if there are some comments and I can respond to those. Otherwise, you can certainly email me for the packet or any other questions that you have. And thank you for joining. And as always, I bid you good health and peace.
Thank you so much, Nana Kwa, for a wonderful lecture. We really appreciate you, and also for joining early, teaching us about natural holistics. Thank you again. We appreciate, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us throughout the lecture, the healthcare lecture. Moving forward, we're also going to have the Pan-African and Organizing History class with Dr. Tyreen Wright. And again, I would like to apologize to our two speakers who couldn't speak today. Next week, again, you'll be the first to speak. Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Tyreen Wright. Yes, I've unmuted you.
Yes, I was trying to unmute myself. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Pan-African History and Organizing course. You will see me momentarily. I guess I have a little trouble getting off of mute and, you know, no camera. But, oh, good, thank you. All right, good. I can put my camera. Okay, so last week you had a case called the African exclusion measure, and I'll be talking a little bit about that today, and then moving forward from there in terms of what's our next reading. I'll have my camera on in a moment. The African exclusion measure case is a very powerful case because it's something that is still relevant now. It's a case that few people in legislative history that few people know about. It's a case in immigration history that few people know about, but it's definitely significant in terms of evidence around African-American opposition to U.S. foreign policy as it relates to African people and Africa in at large, the continent. There is a case that took place prior to that, not so significant in terms of the details, but was somehow remedied as well. Okay, in terms of the fact that it was not passed. I don't think it was as epic. I'm actually still researching the details of it because I'm sort of the person, not sort of, I am the person who dubbed the case, gave the case the name that it has, meaning the African exclusion measure in terms of that being the name of the particular legislation in the case. But it's definitely an exclusionary measure that arose in 1915 as a result of racist intentions on the part of the United States government and its officials. I'm going to be on two devices today because I'm going to be sharing information while I actually lecture. I'm going to do things a little bit different today because I do want those of you who read the case to have the opportunity to ask questions about the case so I can kind of fill in the blanks for you in terms of the details of that particular case. So I might start out that way so that you can have a chance to ask me a question or two about this particular case. Only because it is a rare case. It is something that goes right to the heart of some of the issues that we talk about here. How do we know Pan-Africanism when we see it? I saw someone on some social media platform talking about Pan-Africanism, and the person was very I thought to myself, is this person a part of I Love Black People or listen to our lectures? Because the person was emphasizing that unity alone is not Pan-Africanism. I would agree. Unity alone is not Pan-Africanism. Unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation would in fact be Pan-Africanism for sure. And so that's what we're looking to assess here in terms of our analysis and our study of Pan-Africanism, right? We're looking to highlight cases that are primary in terms of the evidence and relate to, let me see, what's happening with my camera? Okay, all right, sorry guys. You'll see me now. Let's see, okay. Yeah, there you go. All right, I'm looking to highlight cases that are specific and relate to our condition. And so the benefits being very obvious in light of our situation and condition, right? So unity alone is not Pan-Africanism. So I'm switching things up just briefly so that those of you who read the case can ask questions about the case, okay? This is a very significant case because it changed U.S. foreign policy from that point in history, 1915, to present, okay? It definitely shaped the demographic of the Black community within the United States. And let me be very clear. This becomes a model for how African people in the UK, African people in France, African people in Central and South America, all African people who live under racist governments, essentially. And I make no mistake about that. Yes, in Central and South America, the governments can be systemically racist because just like any of them, the leadership tends to not look like the masses of the people. I had somebody who, interestingly enough, as an educator, wanted to highlight Brazil to me, and the woman president who was unseated a few years ago. And my simple question was to the person, do you call that progressive when the woman herself is certainly not an African in a country that is boasting 200 to 300 million Black people who don't consider themselves African, but are saying that they're Black or moving towards Blackness? With 200 to 300 million Black people in the country, you mean to tell me you only have one Black person in your cabinet of 30? So, I mean, what makes that progressive? Do you get what I'm saying? So even the brown so-called progressive factions in some place like South America, you have a country of 200 to 300 million Black people, and you have a cabinet of 30, and you only thought that one was qualified to be in your cabinet, but you're different than the last guy or the guy before? No, you're not. Like even Obama, who in terms of policy did not really do anything for Black people collectively. And it's a shame because then you would have someone like Kamala Harris who will openly say that I have no intention of doing, I will not do anything for Black people, only for Black people. But the point is that even he had more than one Black person in his cabinet. Even he had the facade of representation. Do you get what I'm saying? So my point is that worldwide, all over the globe, we are living in under racist governments, racist regimes, and how do we challenge the racist policies that they enact during their tenure? Okay, and this is a model, right? This is a model for that. You know, essentially a sort of infiltration of the legislative body, a significant control and voice in the press, right? Which is what you see in the case, and the willingness to have direct protest and action when it comes to leadership, right? You see in the final details of the case, Washington talks about the fact that had their challenge to the legislative bodies not worked. Hold on one second. I have a cat who's wanting to have a fit on something. Had that failed, that he himself would have gone to the president, you know. So that was significant. That was significant because you know, okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. That was significant because otherwise, you know, it probably would have failed. Meaning, put it this way, had all other measures failed, right? So in the case, if you read the case, and I'm giving people a chance to ask me about the case, because I always just kind of go to the next thing. Had all failed, which was the challenge to the legislative body in the form of the Tuskegee machine and going there and polling the Congress, had the publicity and the sort of propaganda in the Black press failed, which ultimately made its way to the floor of the House through a legislator from New York, a congressman from New York, and had polling and direct challenge to very specific politicians failed. Washington in that case is saying that he would have gone directly to actually one of the more racist presidents in US history, which was Woodrow Wilson. But it worked. So there was no need to do that, but he made it clear about his intentions had all failed. What I'm saying is that he does this on behalf. Okay, I'm actually on my phone and somebody is thinking they should call me. He does this on behalf of African people globally, collectively, right? Not for Jamaicans, not for, people from only Africa. He knows that this piece of legislation would challenge the freedom to move around the globe and to America, in and to America for African people everywhere. One last thing I wanted to highlight about the nature of this particular measure is the fact that I'm sure you saw very early in the case that once the proposed piece of legislation language is entered, this is historically one of the first cases where it is overt that Blackness and African culture are criminalized. So I think some of you may have saw that. Blackness is criminalized, and the basis upon which Black people would be denied is that they would be denied on the same basis as undesirables, okay, and criminals. So there would be a classifying of African and Black people in the same category as criminals and undesirables attempting to enter the country. So one of the issues that we have here in the United States in particular as African people is the criminalization of Blackness, okay? Blackness is criminalized, which is, you know, the irony, and in such a criminal nation that Blackness is criminalized. I mean, the United States, the entire foundation of the nation is rooted in criminal activity, right? Stealing of land, rape, you know, a murder, right? Systematically displacing people. There's nothing ethical about it, but, you know, early on, there is a criminalization of African and Black people the moment slavery is ended, right? So to create another system to put the population in. So this is very important because it documents that. And then how much do we internally, how much power do we have internally to challenge these things? And so, I mean, the fact stands that it happened, it was thrown out, it was successfully thrown out, and no similar measure in that way has been proposed in, you know, the last 100 years, okay? So they tried it, and it didn't work, but I don't know that we would be so successful in swift organization and precision if something like that should arise, right, once again, right? Because right now is a very critical moment where, for the first time, at least in US history, that there's a very strong internal nationalist movement amongst Black people around identity. And I'm not talking about Black nationalism, I'm talking about like ADOS and FBA and all of these kind of other identities that are emerging. Not saying that they're new identities, but they have never emerged as constituted movements that were separate and apart from Black people and African people globally, right? Asserting a political agenda and things of that nature. And that's a whole nother story. So I'm gonna leave that there and go on to what I'm gonna be sharing. All right, so nobody has any questions, it seems like. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I guess that's a good thing. That means you understood everything you read. Okay, so what we're gonna go on to is the expression of Pan-Africanism on the continent of Africa. I'll be sharing the work of Kwame Nkrumah as he makes his challenges or he faces challenges on the African continent. So theoretically, where we're going here is just the understanding that although Pan-Africanism emerges in the diaspora, the phrase is coined in the diaspora, it's expressed by many diasporic African people as a constituted movement, meaning the first Pan-African Conference, then the Pan-African Congresses, initiated and organized by Du Bois. The highest expression of Pan-Africanism, historically, we can say, was on the continent of Africa. Why? Why would we say that? We would say that because you're no longer talking about individual or even organizational expression. You're talking about national expression and then continental expression, right? Because on the continent of Africa, you have African countries that are under the foot at the moment of imperialism, of colonialism, but fighting their way to independence, right? So this period is extremely important because it becomes a convergence of ideological development and opportunity and history and things of that nature, meaning that the Pan-African Congresses initiated in 1919 would be the ideological think tank through which African leadership can develop its ideas around Pan-Africanism, right? In a sort of closed context coming from all parts of the world. This is building up from 1919 to the 1950s, where you have the Manchester, one of the most important conferences, the Manchester Conference or Congress. It's conferences, but they're continuous, so they're called congresses, right? You will get the resolutions. That's what I'm going to be sharing. You'll be getting in the resolutions from the 1919 Pan-African Congress and the 1950 Pan-African Congress, the Manchester Congress, right? It's not 1950, it's 1950 something. That being said, you'll be able to look at the resolutions of both of those to see what was the nature of the thinking. And by the 1950s, you have constituted movements and efforts on the African continent to move towards liberation, right? Notably, first on the list, as everybody knows, is what? The Gold Coast, Ghana, right? With Kwame Nkrumah. So side note, notably, Kwame Nkrumah would not have been educated in the United States, politicized or radicalized, so to speak. He attends Lincoln University, and then he goes to University of Pennsylvania. I'm not saying that that's radical because that's Trump's alma mater. But he is able to coalesce with Africans from the United States who, in effect, definitely shape his ideation, okay? And he is able to go back to Ghana and bring Ghana to its ultimate independence as the first African country to throw off the cloak of colonialism, right? So you have Nkrumah there, and he is also the person within the organizational body that initiates what? The Organization of African Unity, okay? He makes it very clear that the liberation of Ghana is inconsequential if it does not lead to the total liberation and ultimately unification of the African continent, right? I'm sure everybody knows his famous saying that, you know, basically he's the first one to utter the desire for a United States of Africa. Now, I can't say that it needs to be a United States of Africa because that sounds too much like America. But it's certainly, there needs to be a unified Africa, and a unified Africa, Africa that's unified, not just in name, but in action and in resources and in a favorable way to the interests of African people, would be Pan-Africanism. Because once again, going back to that foundational definition, Pan-Africanism is not simply unity. It's unity for the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. A bare bones is the bare bones concept of Pan-Africanism. So we see Nkrumah at the forefront of that. But then you get to the 1960s, 1962, 1963, you have 17 African nations. You have 17 African nations take their independence from imperialist and colonial regimes. That's a big deal. We don't have that anywhere in the world since or now. There's no 17 countries on a continent as vast as the African continent taking their independence in just the window of 2 years, okay? And we had that. If we were going to be really honest about world affairs and international affairs, we'd still be studying that moment in time, because there's never been a movement that moved faster than that. You know, you hear them talk about the Arab Spring and this and that and the other. Was it 17 countries? No, it was not. Okay. They didn't even have 17 countries in the region to all take their liberation at one time or within a small period of time, but the African continent did. And so now we get to that period and we look at the ideological development and the ideas that come out of the possibility of having independent African nations who are willing to come to the table and even entertain what a unified Africa is going to look like, right? And this is where, so I'm going to stop there. So what you're going to get in terms of reading is that we're going to talk about Nkrumah. We'll be talking about the readings. We'll talk about Nkrumah. So you have a reading from Nkrumah. You'll have the resolutions from the Pan-African Congress in 1919 and the Manchester Congress, right? So the first Congress and the fifth Pan-African Congress, which is, arguably the most important, because many of the figures that would be in leadership when Ghana and other nations come into independence will have their voices in that Manchester Congress, okay? And step onto the world stage at that moment in time. And then we'll look at a piece by the OAU in terms of what the OAU was proposing continentally in terms of its vision and mission for African people and the independent African nations, newly independent African nations on the continent. The other thing is that I also am going to share a film that I usually share at this moment, and it's called Cuba, an African Odyssey. I used it in my academic courses, and I started using it, I don't know, a little while into teaching this, where you guys are 20. So I don't know when I started, let's say somewhere around, 8 or 9, I started using the film equally as much as I do in the classroom, traditional classroom. So meaning we've had 20 of these cycles prior. You guys are number 20 in terms of our cycle of this Pan-African History and Organizing course. That being said, Cuban African Odyssey, don't let it throw you off. It's from, the entry point is from the perspective of Cuba's involvement and role in the independence struggles, but it's not centered on Cuban identity and politics and ideation, although of the Caribbean nations, perhaps Latin American nations, even though Cuba, they probably would call themselves Caribbean and see their, motherland as Africa, unlike many Latin American countries. It's not from their perspective. It is sort of an overview of their role and how there was assistance, which in doing that creates a log for us in terms of the details of African liberation from a more African perspective, as opposed to from a Western perspective of our liberation movement. So it's a very valuable film. It starts with one of the most important cases that we will discuss here, and it's a case that is still reverberating, and that is the case of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo. So I will be sharing that as well, okay? You will see the film and you will read so we sort of have a little heavy, in terms of resources, we sort of have a heavy load this week. So you have the film. I would suggest watching the film first, and then you would also read the documents. So this way the film would have given you context for the period. Last thing I want to discuss is that one of the things that you will understand or come to understand in the context of Cuban African Odyssey is the fact that although we may feel like they're not detractors to Pan-African efforts, there are, right? Africa does not live in a vacuum. African people don't live in a vacuum. Part of our present condition is that we have been at the disposal and we have been the extraction site for the rest of the world in terms of human resources and natural resources. So the film will begin with the most important assassination of the 20th century, it's called, which is the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. And that is directly related to what was going on at the time, which was the Cold War. some people are saying right now we are in a silent Cold War once again. And when I say we, I'm saying we loosely, right? The world at large, or that there is a silent Cold War, because certainly we are not in a Cold War, right? European nations, America and Russia and all those folks are in their own Cold War, right? African people are doing what we are always trying to do, live full and free lives everywhere we are and free of negation while doing that. So the first case you will see, or scenario you will see in the film, is the assassination of Patrice Lumumba and the details of how that took place. And that was part and parcel of the fact that the United States and the Soviet Union interrupted African independence and unity and liberation in one of the most important regions in the world. Not one of the most important regions in Africa only, but in the world, the Congo and the 9 surrounding countries, right? I think I've said it on here before, whoever controls the Congo and the 9 surrounding countries controls the bulk of the world's resources, and therefore controls the world. Cobalt and coltan would come up, and essentially the Soviets potentially have a relationship with Patrice Lumumba after he has some sour dealings with the United States and the Western nations. Long story short, there is an interruption of Congolese independence and unity with his assassination, and this film gives you the details. So while one might think, well, what does anybody care if the people of Congo are united? Well, if the United Congo says that the Congo no longer allows the West to exploit its resources, and it can now choose, right, who have the benefit of its resources, and those very resources have everything to do with the growing of one's military, weaponry, so on and so forth, then yes, there's going to be serious interest in what simple independence in a place like the Congo is going to mean to the world. Can you imagine a world that spends so much time telling African people that we are not important? You are so worried that we may unify in the place where we are because you can no longer exploit the resources and use it as an extraction site. Use the heart of Africa as an extraction site to perpetuate your military so that you can further dominate other places in the world. The irony. But this is true, right? So this is, this is the pattern of thinking and the politics on an international scale that interrupted African independence. So you will get a chance to see that film. You'll see it play out. You'll see some of the players in that. And then you will also have the readings in Nkrumah and others who address the very same issue as African nations. So 1961, the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, 1962, 1963, what we could call an African Spring, where 17 African nations take back their countries from imperialist regimes, okay? I'm gonna end there. I'm gonna post the documents right now. I'm 2 minutes over, which is like a big deal for me because I always go way over. I'm never like right there. So this is good. Is there any way we as Black people can help stop systematic racism? I mean, well, I think this organization is a great thing. And if you're just looking to stop racism, it's just systematic racism and not, the organs of it, so to speak, all the organs or extensions of it. You can slow it down. So in other words, so let me say this, right? Thank you for that question, because racism is a system. Racists are individuals, right? And, so yes, we can curtail how racism is expressed, right? By interrupting their system, right? Naturally. I mean, so how do we do that? We network, right? Because the problem for us is that everywhere we are in a system, but not necessarily willingly, right? So we can pull back from those systems and turn our energies and turn our resources and turn our support and utilize other entities that are not active participants in systemic racism. All of Black people is, I mean, listen, that's what we're doing. We're building a global network, right? That's safe for Black people. What are you trying to be safe from? Racism, systemic racism. So this is a step. Everybody probably wants to think that they have to be involved in some like big pronounced effort, right? And I do think that action starts with self-action, right? So, oh yeah. So, hey, Denise, how are you? So Nkrumah, his development was a process, right? He goes through many years. As one of my comrades or cadre would say in the organization that I'm from, Nkrumah had all the capitalist degrees, and he did. he's doctor. He had all the capitalist degrees, and but he knew how to use it too, right? He knew how to use it to the purpose and the benefit of his own people. Ife and Nachi, okay, we need to raise African consciousness from within Africa continent and with the support of our brothers. So, well, thank you, and I hope that's what we're doing here. I mean, we're on this very call, we're spanning the world, right? So yeah, so I hope that one of the founders are watching, right? I'm at the ideological development point of contact here within I Love Black People, but spanning it, making it broader, which I think they're always trying to do, is the task of some of the founders and yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. I'm just gonna call you Ife because I don't want to miss up the rest of your name. Ahmed. Okay, I'd like to answer that we are in the system, but we are not willing to help make the change we want to see. We are in the system, right? But we're not willingly in the system. And I'll talk about that the next time we come together after you watch the film Cuban African Odyssey and read the relevant materials. How we come into these systems is through brutality, right? We're forced into these systems. We are not willing participants of the system. And that's part of the reason why, a lot of people don't like to critique capitalism, but that's why capitalism has to be critiqued, because capitalism, once you are brutally or violently brought into the system, you are forced to pay capitalism. It's not a choice where you get to opt out. Even in some places in the United States, if you went off the grid, it's like illegal. They come looking for you, sort of like, what do you think you're doing? So you are forced into these systems, not like any of us are willing participants. And as I always let my traditional students know, on the university level, I'm very clear about the fact that I like to highlight the fact that when you talk about capitalism and you have the nerve to defend capitalism, you must deal with and understand that in the context of capitalism, we are the first commodities. We, us, our bodies, human beings that are priceless, are bought and sold. And so, we have to be very aware of that. None of this was willingly. America and to survive without resources from right, exactly. The Western world is solely dependent on the resources of Africa. There's a whole lot of work underway. Thought most of the time individually, some work is being. Listen, when we talk about, and who is this? Felizardo. Some work is being done. Okay. Felizardo, where are you from? Yeah, so you're talking about Mozambique. Okay, so yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You're saying that that some people don't really see the work that's being done. Well, we have to be the one who elevates it. Okay, thank you for telling me. Yes, Mozambique. Okay. Young people. Well, one of the things Mozambique can do is invoke the history of the Mozambican people and the struggle there. Okay, which is notable. So, because let me say this. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to end and post the relevant materials. I taught a course, upper level course in the university called Comparative Slavery, and unfortunately, the person who designed the course, because I didn't design the course, there was someone else who came along and designed the course, and now I restructured the course. The course was on comparative slavery, which to me I thought was like, really? You want to compare how we were oppressed. So for me to stay true to myself and the vein and the nature in which I teach and educate, I had to include in this comparative slavery course, which was of the Americas primarily, a liberatory component, which was the component that also gave an explanation and detailed how each of those colonial territories in the West eventually came to total liberation. I mean, I think that's just excuse how I'm going to say this, but I'm just going to be very candid. I think that's such a loser mentality to start to sit and talk about, like, oh my gosh, look at how we were all enslaved. And so my colonizer, this is what he did, and this one did that, and start to sort of like fixate on the peculiars of our colonizers, like that was something to value. Do you get what I'm saying? No, what we should value is how we defeated them all. We didn't have a conference, like an all enslaved African conference while we were enslaved to say, you over here, this is how you're going to take your freedom. You over here, this is how but we all took our freedom. And we should be marveling at that with no constituted anything, okay? Singular conference, organized, conference, everywhere we were, okay, in bondage, every single place, we took our freedom. That was not part of the plan. That was not part of their plan. In the United States, enslavement existed for 250 years. Majority of the nation's existence was in and under the institution of slavery. They never planned to end it. The African people in that country seized the opportunity and ended it. Yes, the African people here ended it. The European, the Anglo-American never would have ended the institution of slavery. And even Lincoln made this a point. He said, if I could free one slave or none in order to preserve the union of the United States, I will do it. In other words, I don't give a damn about you all. If I have to free one of you or none of you. In order to preserve my union, this thing called the United States, I'll do it. Well, what do you think about the other territories? The other territories that existed are similar in the sense that they were not going to, there are some instances where Haiti is set apart, right? It seizes the whole island with its revolution. Other places come to their independence or out of enslavement in different ways. But the bottom line is that, unfortunately, South Americans, the Brazilians are the latest, 1888, 1885, very, what I would consider late for such a large number of Africans. But the point is, it was done, it was ended. Okay, much to the chagrin of the colonial regimes, right? They didn't plan that. They were hell bent on profiting forever, and we ended that. Nobody but us is going to say that. We should take great pride in that. And so in the course that I was speaking about, I made an additional component and said, someone just said, Mohammed Samba, you have to sign up for the course to see the documents that I'm going to share. Okay, it shouldn't be that hard. Just talk to the administrator. Award or Yvonne, can you see Mohammed Samba in the group and help him sign up for the, so you can see what we're going to post in the WhatsApp group. But my point is that, so I added to this course the details of every liberation struggle and independence struggle and anti-slavery struggle in the region to the curriculum, so that the students could see we just did not exist in slavery. We fought our way out of it everywhere we were, for the most part, okay? And in the United States, we did that in an epic way through the Civil War, which they never wanted it to be about slavery per se. They cloaked it in, the language of negation. It's about our states' rights, so they talked about it in the affirmative. Well, it's about your specific state right, which is the right to own and keep people in bondage, because you can never truly own a human being, right? You have children, we don't own them. Is the right to keep people in bondage. You wanted the legal right. And so we defeated them too. And they never saw it coming. They never anticipated that, okay? There's an epic story to be told about that, the specific details around how that took place. African people in the United States took their freedom. 500,000 of them run and leave plantations and even, exact revenge of their oppressors and enslavers at one moment in time when the Contraband Act is passed, between the Contraband Act and the Emancipation Proclamation. Enslaved could kill enslaver. So that Nat Turner thing is not really fictitious. It happens on a wide scale too. 500,000 people take their future into their hands with no support from the government or anybody, and leave the only places they knew in bondage for the hopes of having freedom and fighting for their freedom. So, there are very epic stories to be told. Our liberation, we need to tell more of how we actually fight our way out of enslavement, because that right there is the biggest, how would you say, phenomenon, right? How did that happen? How did we all do that without being able to come together? We're in bondage, right? How did we do that? That needs to be studied. So anyway, I'll leave it there because I could go on that point all day. As part of me a second, please. Okay, Felizardo. Thank you for sharing that. Exactly, bro. That name challenge. Okay. Yeah, so I agree with what you all saying. So I'm gonna leave it there because now I am over. It is 12 o'clock. And I wanna get right to posting the materials. First up, you'll see the film and then you'll see the supportive readings, okay? Stay well, everybody. And I will see you next time, okay? I am because we are. All right, Award. Hey, hi, Happy. I see you. Hi, sis. Natalia, how are you? Okay, so I have my glasses on, but please do not think that I can really see. I can't. There's little tiny print on here. I cannot see like that. All right, but everyone, it's good to see your faces, and I will see you next week. Stay safe.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Wright, for a
Okay.
wonderful lecture. And
All
we
right,
would like
bye-bye.
also to thank everyone
Okay.
that
I
attended
am
the
good to
class
go. Bye.
today. Okay, thank you, because we are